We are going to talk about the importance of cybersecurity. Most of you know it, but yeah, I was asked to cover it, spanning from like startup early stage till existing CTOs. So yeah, some of the content could be already relevant, which you might be already doing it. Then in that case, yeah, that's a good thing. If this is new learning, yeah, then that's it. I'm not here to tell any tools to recommend which tools you can use and all those things. General cybersecurity strategy, yes, there are a lot of tools in the market that you can use. I'm happy to discuss offline, give my advice or recommendation. But yeah, how we can take cybersecurity all across and how much importance does it have? So yeah, these are the 4 topics. So one, importance. What are the things that we need to consider when thinking of cybersecurity, even at a engineering level or at the company level, and how do one build a roadmap? Not very often you have dedicated cybersecurity leaders or teams at the early stage. 90% it is always taken up by engineering team or CTOs. It's an additional pain point, not a luxury, of course. Well, you have to focus on engineering, development, roadmap, then this also comes into play. And not because you have to have it and your customers ask it. So how do we handle this along with that? And how leadership team or engineering leaders can take this up to the next level, create the importance. So these are the topics. And yeah, I thought I'll do a small game to make everyone interesting, but I don't know how much this email is visible. Basically, I wanted to ask people to find out if these 2 emails make sense, what is real and what is fake. There is definitely some phishing email content here, but yeah, in the interest of visibility, anyway, you'll get the recording and slides. I'll just quickly move up, but yeah, if anybody can see and want to try it. So basically, there are 2 emails. One is real and one is fake, and this is something that all of us get day in, day out. And you can have the state-of-the-art controls deployed across the company or in your engineering or code. All it takes is one phishing email to get access to the complete infrastructure or environment. So this, I thought I'll also create that awareness and play a game, but yeah, basically, yeah, so this is the fake and this is the real one, and the difference is all about it. It might sound like supported microsoft.co.uk, but it is not spelled it as M and I, it's R and N in this left side. So it still looks like Microsoft, nobody takes a look at it. So this is the level of small thing which can create a big impact. So yeah, I'll move on. Before I jump into the session, I thought I'll keep everyone in the same page of telling what is cybersecurity all about. Yes, there are people talking about ransomware, hacking, there is compliance, there is networking and all those stuff. End of the day, if I have to keep it simple, hey, what is cybersecurity all about? What are the things that I need to focus and which level I am? So very first is identify. Basically, we are trying to understand what's on our network or cloud. What are we handling with? And once we know what is on our network or systems or code, end of the day, the primary responsibility of cybersecurity, information security is to protect it. Yes, I know I have found these things. My next job is to make sure I protect it. I might deploy multiple controls, but can I safely say, yes, I'm protected? No, right? Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah, once I have protected, that doesn't end there. I have to make sure I have something in place. If something happens, I know what is happening. So detect when bad things happen. And there is no 100% security or 100% secure here. If something happens, we need to know how we need to respond when some bad things happen and recover from it, right? Okay, what happened? How can I handle it or how can I avoid it? Is this something that I need to do in the future? So recover and govern it. Keep doing it. So while this is how I think everybody should approach cybersecurity at a very simple term so that, hey, at what stage are we? Do we know what we are handling with? Are we having some protection controls? Do we know how things happen, or do we have controls or processes or tools to detect if bad things happen, and how can we handle it and do it? And this is what NIST cybersecurity framework also tells. If you go and Google it for NIST cybersecurity 2.0, these are the pillars, but yeah, they have their own definition, but this is a simple definition of how we can keep it at a very high level. Now, I'll jump into the importance of security. When it comes to security, what are the things that come into mind in general? There is certification, there is compliance, buzzwords like ISO, SOC 2, all those comes into play. Hey, customer is asking for this compliance, otherwise the deal will not go. Or on the technical side, hey, there are this many vulnerabilities that we need to fix it and all those things, right? This is max that we will hear about cybersecurity all along, at least from a tech leadership standpoint. But I wanted to take a few minutes to tell how big is this landscape when we grow as a company. There is a governance, risk, and compliance, and there is security engineering and operations, and there is enterprise security. So these are the three major pillars in cybersecurity. In each and every pillar, you have all these things. You have risk and compliance, where all your policy procedures come into play. Audit and assurance, where you do internal audit. You might use tools, or you might use internal in-house team to conduct all those audits and get the certifications done. You might have a list of third-party vendors. Probably you are an AWS shop, Google shop, or Microsoft shop, and you have a lot of tools and softwares used to power your product and also to run your internal operations. So those are your threat vectors as well. And last is the go-to-market enablement, which is like facing your prospects, existing customers, filling out their security questionnaires, getting on call with them. Apart from all the product features and capabilities, telling how secure your product is, what is your take on cybersecurity, and all those things. Certain customers will be happy, okay, yeah, you have this certifications and compliance, I'm good. But as we go up in the ladder, when you want to scale up, once you go from a startup to early stage to late stage, and once you want to grow and take it to mid-market, certifications alone doesn't help you get there. It's an entry point. Yes, okay, yeah, it gives a reasonable assurance that yes, this company is having all these processes and controls, but still you will end up handling questionnaires where you'll have to tell what you're actually doing. These certifications and compliances will give you entry point, but you need to talk more to convince. So that's the go-to-market enablement. Security engineering and operations is your bad cop, basically. All your application security engineers, or everything that needs to do with the technical security, right from code, application, infrastructure, monitoring your entire networks and systems, and security incident response. While GRC is the non-tech side of it, and security engineering and operation is the complete tech side of it. The third piece, which is less noticed, is your internal operations, company internal, corporate security, where all your internal data, company data, all your, say for example, if you're using Google Drive, OneDrive, Confluence, those are also critical data which needs to be protected. So you have IT security, softwares, accesses, physical security, if at all, if you are having any physical security, physical spaces, if you are running any operations on-prem and all those things. HR and personal security, giving them the right training, conducting all those checks, making sure employees report all these issues. They are also trained on the acceptable usage policy, they don't go rogue and all those things. And yeah, training and awareness. So this is a very high level landscape of where all security has its place and pitches. Okay, yeah, I've touched a little bit on the importance. Okay, I understand, yeah, these are the landscape and this is very important. What can go wrong? What are my stakes here? What will I lose if I don't have all these things, or I have at very a recent level, I may not be yet there, but yeah, I do have something in place, or I have those certifications. What are the risks? What should I be prepared for, right? So all it takes is one single data breach or a simple phishing email, which costs you millions of dollars in terms of fixing the issues, man hours, data loss, and all those things. And you also have reputational damage, loss of customer trust, and you become the spotlight. All your existing customers want to know what happened, what are your steps, and how you are going to face it. It's not about how secure we are. It's all about how incidents happen, and if it happens, how transparent and how diverse we are able to take up and present it. Then your operational disruptions. Yes, so it brings a halt as long as it's good, there is no challenges or issues. But when an incident happens, yeah, all hands are at deck, and everybody wants update, including internal stakeholders, customers, prospects. And yeah, if you're a public company or if you are in the spotlight, if you're doing a lot of marketing stuff, that also gets out. So operational disruptions. And apart from all these things, if you are in a specific industry or domain, there are compliance requirements which mandate you to report all these things that are happening. If you're not a public company, yes, you have to still report all these issues because the regulatory requirements mandate. And yeah, if the root cause is negligence, you are also involved to pay fine. GDPR and all those things come into play now across the world. every country has their own privacy or data security regulations, which is also imposing penalties and fines. So right from loss of money, loss of data, customer trust, efforts, and compliance regulations, these are the impact that we have. So considering all these things, how do we build a cybersecurity strategy that can balance your engineering effort, and what are the things that we can do? I think more often people would have heard shift left approach. Those are some of the, again, buzzwords which come into play. Hey, consider security at the earlier stage. Fine, I'm ready to consider, but what are the things that I should consider? There are a lot of things. Should I work for certification? Should I work for something that is actually needed to secure my product or code or application? How do we go about it? If you have a security team, fine. How do we make sure the strategy works? If you don't have a security team, and if it's part of the engineering org or ownership, how do we go about it? So yeah, it's not about how secure your systems are. You can put access controls, you can put all those things. It's all about how resilient your controls are. Deploying a control doesn't mean that you are secure. If something happens, are we able to detect, respond, and come out of it, or get this to a closure? How soon we can get that? That's the major challenge that everybody will have. So how do I take, what should I do? There are a lot of efforts. You might have a backlog of items, vulnerabilities, compliance requests. You'll have asks from multiple sides. How do we identify what should be prioritized, or what even should I consider? So I think, yeah, the general statement is it aligning with our business needs? When we say business needs, is it a very straightforward security ask that we need to have in our product, or it is a customer ask, hey, I want this thing so that this is something that we require, and we choose vendors only who are having this feature or product? It could be a security requirement or a product security feature, or it is a strategic gameplay that we can have in our product or a feature, depending upon the product that we have, or it could be a good competitive advantage when we go with the competitors, or this market or domain expects these things to be in place, or it's a very straightforward legal requirement, which is you have to comply to it. So these are some of the areas when any security consideration comes into mind. Think of all these things. Hey, is it something that a customer is asking? Or think of all these specific areas. It's not about customer asks. Irrespective of whether a customer is asking or not, I need to do this because of the security of the data and the product that I have. So these are the discussions that you should have, and at least start thinking on these lines. For what purpose this needs to be considered, and where you need to protect. There are a lot of things to be protected. You have your customer data, you have your internal data, company IP, employee data, and all those things. So you need to know some sort of criteria and priority. Okay, this control is required for what? For my product or across the company. Say if it's an endpoint control or any control that you want to put in systems, should I put in cloud systems, or should I put in my endpoints, or all across? Getting that priority makes sense. So yeah, you have to identify what type of data we are dealing with. Is it customer data, or it's internal data, or public data which is available? So based on that, you can identify, okay, where this needs to be applied. And when I talk about risks, okay, I know there is something that needs to be implemented for data security. Yes, it is for a customer data of those sorts. So if I don't have this, or if I take some more time, what are my impact? Is it going to impact my revenue, or it is a reputational issue, or it is a security ask aligning back with the business needs, or it's a compliance or technical stuff? So if this is something that I can bite for some time, then you prioritize your roadmap accordingly. If this is a customer ask, hey, if your GTM comes and tells, hey, this is something that is needed, there is a pipeline, very standard ask, right? This many customers are asking for it. So that's the pressure point. But see if it is really making sense for you to have it in the product. So these are some of the things that you can take it to fix it, whether it should come at my top of my roadmap, or can it wait till next quarter, of those sorts. And once you decide, okay, yeah, we are going to have some control, or we'll deploy this, what type of control you are going to put? It's not about having the highest state-of-the-art control, or going with, okay, yeah, we'll go with whatever that is best in the market. There are different types of controls that you can put based on the nature of risks or the requirement that you have. Either it's a detective control. I want it only to be notified if something happens, so that I'll know what action to be done. Or you want something to be stopped directly. If something happens, I want it to be blocked. Say it could be a DLP, or like I am blocking access by default, or I am detecting and then taking an action, or it is an administrative control where there is board oversight, processes needs to be reviewed by senior management. It's not like only engineering team is working on InfoSec. There are certain compliance requirements which demands senior management or leadership or board has an oversight on security requirements. Are we planning to put that type of a process or control, or it's a pure legal? So having these angles at all stages will help you segregate your roadmap and prioritize based on how you want to do, or at least you'll be able to go back and talk. These are the reasons why I want to take up this first, or you can question, or if there are multiple requirements, at least you can question these things to get answers so that you'll be able to prioritize. And once you agree and you have a control that is deployed, okay, I have deployed all the controls, I'm good to go. Let's go and get this customer, close the deal, or meet the security requirements, get the certification. Yes, there is a good security posture. That doesn't end there. Whatever controls we have deployed, is it making sense for me? Should I continue to invest on those controls or efforts or processes? That is something where metrics comes into play. I think there was a good session in the morning about metrics as well. So if you don't measure what we are doing, then I think we are doing something wrong, right? So we need to have some sort of measurement depending upon the control. Say, for example, how many alerts I am getting, or how many customer requests I've asked for this particular security feature. Only then we'll be able to see, okay, is it doing a good job, so that you can review at any point in time based on the metrics. The metrics will tell you whether should we continue or should we not. A standard example is, say for, I think, I can tell one thing that we handle. So there was a customer requirement for PCI DSS. Hey, there are like 15 customers who are asking for PCI, and this is a help desk product. And we go and, there is a revenue that we have to tap. Okay, we have tools in place. Okay, PCI DSS is implemented. We have chosen the environment, technical controls are built in. We literally went to the engineering team, stop all work. This is the next 2 quarters that you have to do. Okay, PCI is certified. I have the certification on my website. Deals are going through. After 6 months, when we go and ask, how many customers are using this feature? 0. Then why did we spend this much amount? So if we don't go back and check that, then security team will be like spending every year on these certifications without having any impact. Yes, there is a state-of-the-art protection. You are processing. There is a PCI environment. On the technical side, it's good. But is it adding value to your company or business? This is where deploying security control doesn't make sense to you. That's where we don't get the return on investment as well. So this is one of the reasons why, hey, we have to invest so much on security, but what is that we are getting in return? So this is also another way to look at it. So you need to go and check whatever investments that we have made on security, is it making sense? Should we continue or not? Metrics will help you. So now we talk about, what are the things that you need to consider for strategizing, what questions to ask, and how do we track it. Now, there are certification and attestation which is driving security most of the time. It is not always like risk driven. It is always like, hey, there is a certification requirement because of so and so this, or we are in this industry, we have to do. So there are a lot of certifications that you have in this cybersecurity realm. One is like the standard one, which by default, every company goes for it, which is a global information security management system. And you have something for privacy, which is ISO 27701. A great example, whether we are processing credit cards or debit cards, the word payment comes, okay, there is a PCI DSS requirement. Are we processing credit card statements? What are we processing? We might be getting some bank statement or credit card statement. Should I go for PCI? That's the question that we need to ask, because since there is, we are processing payment information, there are payment related data which is being fed into a product, and hence PCI is required. So this is where questions need to come, and whenever there is an involvement of any personal information, GDPR, CCPA, and all those things come into play. SOC, again, another standard well taken up along with ISO is SOC 2 reports, which is not every product or every company needs to have SOC 2. SOC 2 is mainly for US. US companies or US buyers will look for SOC 2, whereas ISO 27001 is worldwide accepted. If your focus is on only US markets, then SOC 2 makes sense. If your focus is global, then you should prioritize ISO and other standards, because there is an alternative for SOC 2, which is a different way of reporting where you can have it for non-US customers as well, because SOC 2 is mainly sought after by the US buyers. So, and again, there are different types of SOC 1, SOC 2, which is if you are having a financial product or if you are dealing with financial information, then it applies. And it also talks about how well we are managing our financial processes internally within the organization. So SOC 2 is the traditional security related report which talks about multiple criteria, and SOC 3 is nothing but an executive summary. So we need to make sure, hey, yes, there is an ask for SOC or SOC 1 or SOC 2. Do we need it? How do we do it? Can we take SOC 2, or should we take any other certifications which will add value? Depending upon the market that we are selling, depending upon the business requirement, and depending upon the product, we need to take into consideration. HIPAA, again, it's particularly for US health information. If you are processing any health information outside US, HIPAA doesn't have any place. Nobody is going to ask. Similarly, if you are serving UK market, they will not even look for ISO 27001, they will look for Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus. And NYDFS CRR is specifically for New York market. So the reason why I had to put all these things, because there are multiple security certifications and compliances that are available, including the government sector. So we need to take a cautious call. If you are taking a compliance, is it really required? Because you can still implement all the controls without the certification as well. We should have in mind that this is not the certifications and attestations are not the ultimate goal. Controls are the ultimate goal. These certifications help you get things faster, which means like I have all the controls. Say for example, if I take ISO 27001, there are close to 90 plus controls. Previously it had 114 controls. So I can deploy all the controls and I can still say my processes are ISO compliant. By taking the ISO 27001 certification, the word compliant becomes certified. You are inviting a third party who is no way related to you to come and audit your systems and certify it. Otherwise, I can still say, hey, I'm compliant. The only thing is, do I have the effort and bandwidth to create such documents, collaterals to show how I am compliant, or I go and take the certification? So, because there is a level of investment involved in taking up all these certifications and efforts as well. So how do you want to take that efforts into play? Instead, I can give a timeline, hey, if it's only one customer who is asking, should I spend like maybe $1,000 if you are going with a no-name auditor, or if you want to go with a decent auditor like Big 4 or Tier 1 and Tier 2, you end up spending $5,000 or $10,000 for the certification. For one customer, should I spend this? Or should I prepare a decent report which tells these are the controls that I have, I'm happy to give the evidences and move on, but yeah, this will be in my Q3 or Q4 roadmap, if you have other engineering priorities. So these are some of the trade-offs that you can think of. These are the different certifications. ISO and SOC 2 are not the only, maybe PCI. I think that's what I hear as certifications. And you might have all these things. There will be one customer who will come and ask, hey, this is fine, but I want these specific things. Can you do it? So it is still going to come again, despite having all these certifications and compliances, you might still have that customer. What if it's a big deal value? How you are going to handle it? So that's why controls will help you to give assurances and responses back. So while these are certifications, how do I take controls? Okay, I said, hey, certifications are just one step away, so I have to deploy controls. It is easy if I take all these certification frameworks because there are controls. ISO has 90 controls, SOC 2 has another 80 controls. We go and deploy those controls. If you take that path, yes, it will help you, but you will run behind compliances. There are certain common controls which in these frameworks, say ISO and SOC might have individually 100 controls, but there are 50 common controls. But you will end up taking up multiple certifications based on it. Instead, can I take a step back? Hey, I'll implement all the controls, and it might meet multiple cybersecurity certifications of framework. Is there a way to do it? Yes. I can just take these controls and deploy. I might meet my ISO, SOC 2, like maybe most of the controls or certifications that I have listed. So how do we strategize that? So there are three things that you need to take. Either you can take up these certifications, what these certifications are demanding, go ahead and implement. Or you take a proper information security control framework, which is CAS 18 or NIST 800. While there are so many others, I've taken these two for a specific reason. NIST is from US standards. CIS, again, it's a standard. So when we take these two things, CIS 18 has close to 156 controls, and it is categorized into 3 different sectors, Sector 1, Sector 2, Sector 3. Most of the governments, US Department of Defense or Australian government, adopt CIS 18. And the beauty is, though there are 156 controls, if you are able to meet the set 1, which is like, it's mentioned as 18 because 18 high-level controls. For each and every high-level control, you will have sub-controls. If you are able to meet the tier 1, which is 30% of 156 control, you will achieve 80% compliance of most of the frameworks, and your cybersecurity posture is across data, product, and infra. On the same hand, this is like CIS 18 would be a good starter point, like if you are an SMB or mid-market. Once you grow enterprise, NIST 853 comes because it is a comprehensive list of controls, which is like 1,176 if I am not wrong, but it goes to the depth of it. All the entire frameworks comply, but you can start with CIS 18, and CIS 18 provides a good mapping. You don't have to worry about, okay, I am ready to implement CIS 18, what are the controls or frameworks that it will match? CIS 18 website has given a clear crosswalk. If you take CIS 18, what are all the compliances that you will meet? Which means there is a one-to-many mapping of CIS 18 controls with ISO, SOC, in fact, all the previous certifications that I have listed, which is easy. You can choose so if you want to deploy any control, refer to these control frameworks. You can share it across your engineering org or product org so that, hey, we have to define a control. You don't have to go and have a brainstorming discussion what controls we need to put. Refer these control frameworks. It has detailed controls. You can pick one. It has definitions of how to implement it, and you can move away. Then comes the program framework. See, control framework is like, I need a control, I take it, I deploy it. How do I make sure the control is deployed, monitored, maintained? How do I make sure the metrics are done? That's where the program frameworks comes, which is ISO 27001 and NIST CASF. So all these program frameworks covers the cybersecurity org or landscape, which means instead of telling, hey, I have all these controls in play, I'm telling, I have all these controls in place, and it is also aligned with the globally accepted industry standard, which is ISO 27001 or NIST CSF. So there are 2 ways to do it. Either I take these controls and implement it, or you take a control framework, implement it, and show, hey, I have a control framework which is my umbrella set. It also meets all your compliance requirements, which means tomorrow if any new compliance requirement is needed, you have the CAS control framework, take a look at it. I already have all these things. What is my delta? That delta alone you need to implement it, and the control framework gives you what are the controls that you need to implement. So you don't have to have a simple session, and documents will help you do it. And yeah, there are tools out in the market. There are many GRC automation tools. The name, I can call it out like Sprinto, Strata, Vanta, all those things, which makes the next step of life easy for you so that it gets automation, monitoring, and all those things. Then comes the risk frameworks. This is typically for enterprises, mid-market and enterprise, where you have controls. How do you make sure the risks are measured and monitored? Again, there is a very straightforward asset-based and process-based risk assessment. Similar to ISO 27001, all these frameworks will help you. How do I go about doing a risk assessment on my company? What are the assets that are of high priority? What are the risks that I can have, and what controls that you have in play? So that you have a complete picture of risks, controls, and your program, which completes the cybersecurity holistically. As I said, certification definitely gives you the assurance. It definitely enables revenue, no doubt about it, because that's the journey I had in the past, where we went after certifications. But after a point, when you're growing, you have to really see, are we secure? Just because I have a certification, that doesn't mean I will not get a security breach, right? There will be definitely security breaches if the control is not reviewed or monitored. Only sustenance enables real security. We have to monitor, measure, and see the posture. Yeah, this one slide I wanted to cover. While this is general cybersecurity strategy and framework, now AI has come into picture. So it changes the entire game of cybersecurity, because while whatever I have spoken is traditional cybersecurity compliance risks and certification. So along with all these data security concepts, when it comes to cybersecurity, what are the challenges that you can face, or like even from the cybersecurity is, the very first thing, like, yeah, before even I jump into it, cybersecurity risks or controls are traditional, very like to the point, whereas when it comes to AI, it is not a traditional way, it is evolving, it is changing. Doing risk assessment and deploying security controls is not straightforward. Very recently, yeah, in the last 2 years, there are frameworks similar to ISO, all these are coming up, but yeah, it has a long way to go as well. Some of the things, how secure your model is, because it's not technical controls that I have to deploy. We are dealing with large volume of data here. So are you using traditional OpenAI or all the other LLM frameworks, or it is your own LLM framework, whatever may be it? How are you securing the large amount of data that is processed? That's the data security. How is your model secure? How it can behave? Explain how your AI works. That's the question that's being asked. How the decisions are being taken, or how it is retrieving data, and all those things. And again, algorithmic bias. When AI came into the spotlight, we had more security breaches and attacks because it is easy for someone to manipulate the AI by playing with the data. I don't need state-of-the-art hacking controls or tools or anything else. I just have to talk, I just have to engage, give some data, manipulate it, and give a biased output or a wrong output. So how are you avoiding this? This is a question that's being asked. Transparency, how decisions are being made, and how it is refined. It's not about, okay, the AI is capable of making decisions. When the landscape changes, how it is adapting, how you are training it. Are you employing production data to train your models? Are your training data or test data is covering the whole list of the realm so that it is not biased? And supply chain vulnerabilities as well. So you might use a lot of AI integrations or tools or capabilities, how secure it is. Because you might be protected, all it takes is one vulnerability for our supply chain to do it. Standard example, I think 2 weeks back, Snowflake has an incident. So everybody who is using Snowflake have to go and review how the impact is for me. Am I impacted in the first place? That will take at least 2 weeks for you to know, because Snowflake has to come and tell you, are you impacted or not? So that's the level of risks that we are having. And privacy is another piece. Since we are processing large amount of data, are we processing with all those legal regulatory impacts? So leave the traditional cybersecurity at one side. Cybersecurity for AI is altogether a complete portion that we have to look into it, because the traditional controls won't just get you that. Now, these are the various things that you need to consider for a cybersecurity roadmap of planning and stuff. Now, how do I go about it? Because there are a lot of things that I spoke. How do I categorize and how do I take the controls? Because now I have said you there is a control framework, program framework, deploy all these controls, and then you can take it up in the security. But how it is going to help you align with your business or get the new revenue for the company as well, right? So split it into multiple pieces. The very first thing that anybody needs to protect is data. Even if you are a product company, there is a data that is being involved. The core fundamental piece is data. How can we secure the data? Do we have enough security controls for the data? When it is stored or processed or transmitted, standard like data at rest encryption, data at transit encryption, checking your TLS, doing SSL scans, how are we storing and processing? So if you are making some justice to your data security, then yeah, you can always keep adding more controls. Then obviously the data is stored or processed in the product or application. How do I secure the application or the product? Right from your code security, access, application, integrations, handling vulnerability management. As long as we have these basic steps, then we are covering the product and application security. Yes, you have a lot of open source tools and licensed tools as well. That's a big discussion. Should we go open source or licensed version? So that's a separate topic. But yeah, as long as it is meeting your requirement and you are confident with your open source provider, I think you can go for it. Then both the data and product is hosted in infrastructure. It could be your own, or you're using cloud or hybrid or whatever it is. Then we'll look at the concepts of, okay, what are things that I need to care about on the infrastructure? From having a firewall or WAF, make sure it is getting the latest updates. The other point is like, if it's a mission critical application, how much it is available, determining your RTO and RPO, having all the logs. And then the last two pieces is something that we always miss in the early stages, but we'll end up taking up monitoring for incidences, SIEM tools, and all those things. But we should have, okay, these are the roadmap that we need to have in place. You can also use this to assess, okay, put a tick mark or check mark, do I have all these things? If you don't have, then you can consider it in your roadmap. Then your internal IT security, because you can protect your endpoint, you can protect your product, application, and code. End of the day, it's access from individual endpoints. So you need to make sure those things are also in play. Your endpoint controls, starting from antivirus, removable media, how data can be shared, or if you're using OneDrives or G drives or cloud, your SaaS application, what applications you are using internally, who is having access, can data be sent out? It's not like, hey, I'm going to cut off all access to all the environments. No. Do I know what data is being sent out? Or if something critical is sent out, am I being notified? It doesn't work like, hey, I'm going to cut off all the access, you don't have endpoint access, you cannot send mails outside our company domain. That doesn't work no longer. You have to give those accesses, but how do we have those controls in place so that if something happens, I detect and immediately act on it? Then comes your governance, having those policies, procedures, giving the training to all the employees, and then measuring effectiveness. So these are some of the high-level things that you can consider to first draw a roadmap, or if you have a roadmap, make these things to revisit, ask those questions, strategies, prioritize, and control so that you can get it done. Now, all these are like best practices or pain points or how we can do, but as leaders, we could be a CXO or an engineering manager, what we can do before implementing all these things, right? So I think we should start understanding the importance of it. This is the wide landscape that we have. I think there is a lot more effort to be done, or there is a constant review and monitoring required so that we bring that mindset and then start following it. And cybersecurity can be a revenue enabler when deployed and presented in the proper way, right? You can deploy the controls and make sure you have revenue out of it by giving metrics and ROI. So it's no longer that you have to spend on cybersecurity. You have tools, softwares, and maybe, yeah, you have prevented from breaches. You can always influence your revenue. Hey, how many deals were dependent on cybersecurity assurance more than the product? Once you go up, the vendors or buyers will like your product, but they'll also be interested in how secure the product is, and it becomes a decision-making factor. Even though your product is promising, does it have the required security controls because I'm investing my data on it? And off late, with the number of breaches and updates that are happening, I think stakeholders from board, or if you're having a leadership team or investors, they also should be made aware of the importance of it, because it is also having a direct impact on investors as well, right? So if we are invested, if we are having investors, end of the day, there is a financial loss affected as well. And again, not every company becomes a spotlight for bad actors out there. It's all about what actions that we take, and we become the spotlight of it. And how do I showcase? If I have to showcase, hey, what are the controls that I have apart from the security controls or certifications that I have? This is a one-page slide which I used to present to any prospect or customer, which will have all the things that I said, right from where the product is hosted. If I'm using AWS, I've mentioned AWS, you can replace it. And right from hosting, I talk about data security, data at rest, encryption. If I'm using key management, TLS, what are the access controls that I have? Very simple things like SSO could be a product feature. It is also a security product feature, custom roles and permissionings and stuff. Then I move into application security. I think, yeah, most of it are open source tools here, where, hey, these are things that I use for my code security, application security, scanning, APIs and stuff, and backup, RPO, how often my backup is done. And then, yeah, what are the tools that I use to monitor? And very lastly comes the compliance framework, because these are things that I have. It also meet all these compliance requirements. And yeah, see if you can put a static security page or an interactive security page. Nowadays, there are a lot of tools where you don't have to manually fill questions for customers. There are good tools out in the market which helps you do the job. You just have to make sure all these controls are there. And how do we measure metrics? While there are a lot of metrics, I wanted to make sure I bring the return on investment metric. Say, for example, this is a simple metric which you can use. How many customers had information security questions or queries asked? How fast we closed it? What is the average time of average questions per request? And what's the average time and how many accounts? So this the right side of metrics is key. How many accounts had questionnaires? You can split it between prospects and existing customers. Existing customers are something that they continue to renew their product. They are doing a due diligence. And prospects, out of 20 prospects, how many deals were closed where information security had a direct or indirect impact? So this is how you tie your cybersecurity efforts to the revenue MRR or ARR. So this is one metric which will also help as leaders to influence or even deprioritize the features or controls. Yeah, the big picture is we have all these teams: compliance, enterprise security, security engineering, and operations, who will work with the internal teams. Like security engineering is tech, who will work with the product and engineering leadership team. Compliance has close work with legal and privacy. Enterprise security works with IT and people ops. All these are the information security landscape. By having all these controls, we are protecting the data of the company, and for sales and customer-facing teams, we are generating revenue and security clearances. And for existing customers, we are continuing to show the trust and assurance. So this is the impact cybersecurity can have across the company if deployed in the right way. Yep. Thanks, guys.